Hi, it's Gayle King. We're in the green room at CBS This Morning. We are live on the air. We're trying something new, all you Google Plus watchers today. We're calling this our Hangout. Is that what we're calling it, guys? We're calling this a Google Plus Hangout. So as we figure exactly how it's going to work, I'm going to ask you to bear with me. Our first guest, and I'm really excited about this, is John Miller. Hello to you, John Miller.
Hey, Gayle. I'm excited about our first Hangout.
All right. Is this your excited face?
This is me excited.
Okay. This is the thing, John. This is the thing about these video chats. We did a story on the news the other day. We were talking about it, that plastic surgery is actually going up because more people don't like how they're looking on these video chats. That a lot of people have decided, you know what, I need a new jaw. Are you pleased with how you look? Let's show John close up. Are you pleased with how you're looking today on the video chat, Mr. Miller?
Actually for me, this is actually as good as it gets.
Listen, I understand. I do a lot of Skyping with my son who is in Shanghai. And whenever I'm looking at the iPad, I go, God, this is such a horrible shot and a horrible picture. And I'm thinking, now I understand why people are saying, you know, maybe I need to have a little work done. But we're not talking about plastic surgery today. We're talking about tax day because it is taxes. But before we get into that, I just saw your piece. I saw you on CBS This Morning. Very scary stuff, Mr. Miller. It makes me have great appreciation for what the government does and how safe they keep us with things that we don't even know about.
Well, that was an incredible case, Gayle.
Yes, I remember.
I mean, there was one moment in that case where we were in the FBI following the defendant who's on trial today, Adis, and he just took off at 100 miles an hour right here in New York on the Grand Central Parkway. And he called 911 and he said, "We love death the way you love life, Allahu Akbar," and hung up the phone and then crashed his car at 100 miles an hour into a bunch of cars and trucks. And
you know, also, John, as part of the video surveillance, you showed a video of him shopping. Was he at a Costco? Was he at a Walmart? What store was he? Where was he?
He was at a store on the outskirts of Denver. That was Najibul Azazi. And it was a hair product store. And he was buying all the peroxide chemicals that you need to make the bomb. And it's funny because you see this guy with his big shopping cart buying, you know, gallons and gallons of peroxide. It's like, are you a hairdresser? No, I'm making a bomb to take to New York, you know.
A hair peroxide store. Okay. All right, well, we will continue. We'll be talking about taxes. Let's start with tax day. The big question, John, is have you filed your taxes? Hello, we're doing a live video chat. I read your book. I can't wait to discuss. We're talking about Penn State today, the authors of a very cool book, and they just entered the green room. But go ahead. Have you filed your taxes? Today's the day.
What I always file is an extension, and I'm right
Me too.
on the case for that.
Me too. I filed an extension, but this is the thing. When you file an extension, my accountant said I still had to pay, so you pay a lot of money just to make sure that just so they don't think you're trying to pull a fast one or the okie doke. So they always overestimate. So I did write a check to the IRS, but I did file an extension. I'm thinking of all the government agencies not to mess with. It would have to be the IRS.
Well, that might be true. But on the other hand, some people are messing with it, and in a big way, because when you file that extension, your accountant may likely call you and say, "Hey, Gayle, you don't have to worry about it. Somebody else already filed your taxes and may have already gotten your refund." And that's what we're seeing happening in thousands and thousands of cases. Last year,
how so? People stealing my identity or stealing identities?
That's what happens is for the living, they'll go to a company, they'll go to a clinic, they'll go to an insider at a hospital, and they will buy bulk data that has dates of birth, social security numbers, names that go together. And they will just go on one of the online tax services like TurboTax, and they will just have a bunch of people sit there with laptops all day in one room filing other people's taxes and having those refunds come to an address where they're able to get those checks. And that's what they do with the living. With the dead, they scan the obituaries and they say, you know, you get the date of birth in the obituary, and then they go on ancestry websites and they get social security numbers, they match them up, and they file as people living or dead, and they sent out $2.6 billion, billion with a B, in tax refunds to people who weren't the people last year.
Wow. Now, see, that's what you don't think. You don't think that you have to worry about taxes after you're dead. Everybody thinks this can't happen to me, but that's foolish thinking, is it not?
Well, it is. It can happen to anybody. And, you know, the question is, well, if somebody else files and they get my refund, does that mean I don't get my refund? And the answer is, no, not exactly. You still get your refund. The problem, Gayle, is you've got to spend the rest of that year trying to prove to the IRS that you're really you and the other person wasn't. And when you ask them, well, who was this other person and where did that check go? They say, oh, well, we can't tell you that. We have to protect their privacy. It's the law.
See, that's something, John Miller, that doesn't make sense.
A little bit.
Do you have any other examples of outrageous tax fraud that you just think is so egregious?
Well, one other example along the lines of this story, which is Puerto Ricans are particularly vulnerable to this because on the island of Puerto Rico, you're in the Commonwealth there. So you don't pay your taxes to the IRS. You pay your taxes to the Commonwealth, even though you're a U.S. citizen. The problem there is people have been down there buying giant lists of names and Social Security numbers and dates of birth of people in Puerto Rico, then coming here to New York and by the thousands filing taxes to them. And when the IRS gets those taxes, the usual tip-off is when they get it the second time from the real person, they know something's wrong here. But since the people in Puerto Rico aren't filing with the IRS in large amounts, the IRS doesn't detect the duplicate. And we think that's where a lot of the theft is going on. The bad guys have figured out this anomaly, and they're exploiting it.
So if you think you're a victim of fraud, what can you do? What should you do?
Well, I mean, before I beat the IRS up too badly, the IRS says 87% of this they actually detect coming in, but still, that's the percentage they don't detect affects a lot of people. So what should you do? The IRS has figured out this problem's going on, and it's not new. They have a special office. So if this has happened to you, you can go on their website, locate the link to that place. You can call them up and say, I'm me. Somebody else filed my taxes. They may have gotten my refund, but I need to get untangled from this, and they will help you work through it. They also have a lot of advice for you, but if you boil it down to a line, it's protect your personal information, meaning your date of birth and your Social Security number. Don't leave it lying around. Don't leave those things lying around together, and don't ask anybody, don't give it to anybody who asks you for it just because they're on the phone or it's on a form. Make sure they really need to have that.
All right, good advice, John Miller. I also know that today, I was reading a story last week, that today, tax day, is one of the highest days for car accidents. Why? Because people are rushing to put in their returns. So as we sign off on our very first Google Plus Hangout, can we just say, drive carefully, drive within the law, the post office isn't going anywhere. John Miller?
Thanks, Gayle, and that's great advice.
Yeah, and I have one more thing for you. I'm looking, you're in your office. I'm looking at that very sparse bulletin board. Surely you're a father. Don't you have any children's artwork, any pictures of your wife, who I know you love very much, any pictures of your children? I'm just looking at that bulletin board, and it's looking, I have to say, a little beautiful.
That's everybody.
Wait, hold the picture. Wait, John, hold the picture up. We didn't see it. Hold it up.
There we go.
Okay, hold it back a little bit. Hold it back a little bit, because, okay, all right, now let's take a big shot of John. There we go. I like it. I like it. Yes, I'm thinking next time if we do a Google Plus Hangout, because we do think you're worthy, could you just make your bulletin board look a little more inviting?
I will definitely work on the decor here. You know, this place is so spacious and so big, you should see the rest of it.
I know. We're very, very swanky here at CBS. Thank you, John Miller. Thanks.
Thanks, Gayle.
That's our very first Google Plus Hangout. Thank you, Google Plus Hangout viewers. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.